and council took appropriate action. So who would like to come forward? We ask that you please state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Adam Amick. I am a resident here in Casper, Wyoming. I live at 1121 West 22nd Street. One moment, sorry. All right. I'm a videographer here, a marketing director for a power service company in Casper, Wyoming. I've done work as a professional videographer for companies like Lifetime Health and Fitness, 307 Magazine, Casper Orthopedics, the Refly Shop, and donated video works to the Platte River Revival, which is City of Casper project. I'm here today in regards of the City of Casper brand launch. I think it's a great community effort that the City of Casper has been in need of. I'm thankful to be a part of a city that's willing to go to such lengths as to brand its community and bring it together under one identity. It came to my attention that during the City brand rollout that was funded by the City of Casper and the CACVB and facilitated by the advertising agency, ADBAY Incorporated, this video contains scenes and clips that were shot by me on my own equipment and not works for hire. This footage is my intellectual property. ADBAY Incorporated and owner Sean Houck never bothered to secure a license agreement from me to use my material. Although I am flattered to have my footage used to craft a beautiful brand for the City of Casper, which I was born and raised in, I was not compensated nor contacted for permission of use of said media. The loss of copyright and ownership of intellectual property created by an artist for second-party and third-party usage are very clear. In order for the City, ADBAY, CACVB to use my work, they would need to have a contract defining use of or transferring ownership to the owners of the Wild City brand and compensation to myself who created the material in the first place. This media may not be legally used without me being compensated under legal licensing agreements for use of said media. I know ADBAY Incorporated has in the past paid licensing agreements for media shot by freelancers and independent producers or musicians. I made John Patterson aware of the situation on February 10th in an email to which Mr. Patterson agreed there was a problem. Mr. Patterson contacted Mr. Houck, owner of ADBAY Incorporated, notifying him of the situation. Mr. Houck, in an email, myself and manager Patterson agreed that he was willing to discuss compensation for my video being used by the City of Casper. Mr. Patterson made it very clear he, the City of Casper, was not the responsible party. His email stated, quote, "Now that I have you and Sean communicating, I will bow out of this discussion and let the responsible parties deal with you. The city was merely a customer, joint with the CACVB. We are not the responsible party for the actions of ADBAY." Mr. Patterson referred me back to ADBAY Incorporated, who at the time indicated an interest in resolving the situation. After Mr. Patterson washed his hands of the ownership of any copyright issue, Houck then changed his stance to a position of intimidation and bullying through his lawyers to sue me unless I cease and desist and no longer communicate my concerns about the misuse of my video, leaving my footage to continue to be misused by the City of Casper and ADBAY Incorporated to this very day. I find the actions of ADBAY Incorporated to steal and threaten my livelihood as a well-known creative contractor in this community to be wrong. Mr. Mayor, Council, here's my request. Either my footage be removed from the Wild City brand, effective immediately, or I to be compensated for my work. And that's basically it.
Questions?
Sir, what would the value of your intellectual property be?
I brought this to the attention, and I requested a $5,000 fee for the clips in discussion.
And how many minutes or how
There are
much?
7 clips.
7 clips?
Yes. Time used wouldn't be a concern on that end.
Is there a way that the value of a video clip of this sort is determined by industry standards?
That would have, yes, been determined beforehand if that was brought to the attention before it was used and misused. I brought this to...
How did you come up with $5,000? Is there some...
I was going to bring a notion of $7,000, $1,000 per clip, which seemed pretty fair to me, and I dropped that down just because I figured that that'd be fair.
There's no standard method for trying to determine the value of something like this.
There isn't. It's an intellectual property, so I would set the value of whatever the property is that is mine. So
And they'd either want to buy it or not.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Councilman Nicholas.
Ray was first, and then I'll go, please.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So, do you know how Sean got a hold of the clips, or was it online? Was it something you had worked with him on a previous project?
Some of the footage was used and donated to 307 Magazine for a one-time use, and somehow that particular clip got these 7 clips from that one finished product that had one-time use to 307 Magazine landed in this position.
Thank you.
Nicholas.
I find this a little bit interesting, though, because we did contract with ADBAY. I believe it took them a whole year extra to do it. And so let's just say, for the sake of this discussion, that this young man is telling us the truth and he shot those things. We paid approximately $80,000 for this campaign, or whatever we call it. And so he's asking to be compensated for that. So I think it would behoove us to just ask a simple question or find out if that was in fact done. I think that would be a simple deal. And I don't think $5,000 seems outrageous to me if part of that very short clip was done by this young man, because if you figure what 80 grand costs per second or whatever you want to do it in, he's probably being pretty fair. I'm not saying that I agree that he had stuff in there or not, but I think that should be found out and just taken care of in an appropriate manner. I don't think there need to be a lot of threatening, but do you have an attorney that's returned their deal or something?
I actually have not I have an attorney that was looking at it, but obviously I don't really want to have to fund an attorney to just go into a legal battle that could turn into a $50,000 ordeal that would basically cannibalize your entire campaign that you paid for. It would be. Okay. I was also trying to make this a situation that could get settled quietly outside of court, and obviously this is not a situation that Mr. Houck wanted to pursue.
Okay. Well, anyway, that was my opinion, so I'll just say that.
Okay.
Maybe visit with me after. I just like to know a little bit more about it. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Patterson, is that your recollection of how this all occurred?
It's clear from our contract with ADBAY that they're responsible to handle this matter, and Mr. Houck has tried to, and I would think that it's between this gentleman and Mr. Houck. The city has no responsibility other than we were the client, and so ADBAY does have a responsibility, and there is another side to the story that Mr. Houck has shared with me, and so I think that he and Mr. Amick should get together and work this out, and I think that we as a city need to rely upon ADBAY to make best efforts to do so.
Although we're hearing that that's not moving forward, it sounds like.
Yes, it has not moved forward. It's basically been stood still since like I stated here, I've been bullied out of the situation with a lawsuit against me from Mr. Houck. If I'm not actually allowed to talk to the city because he's a client. It's a client of the city right now, so I would be basically infringing on his legal action against me currently.
I feel like he warned you not to do what you're doing.
So I need to cease and desist speaking with his clients.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Did you do any freelance work or sign any contracts giving ADBAY use of your materials?
No.
Follow up, you've never had any business relationship with ADBAY?
I had a business relationship with him in the past. I worked for him as an employee, but these were not works for hire. So there are things that I have worked on for the city of Casper, but this particular media would be my intellectual property being misused.
And it was created after you severed your relationship?
After or when I was not there with my own equipment, under my own regard, not works for hire.
Obviously, there's a dispute between these two parties that I guess Mr. Amick's trying to, resolve here this evening, and it's really between ADBAY and I don't know if Mr. Lubin wants to weigh in on the legal.
I don't, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
You might want to press your button.
Thank you. I forgot. Mr. Mayor, I don't know that you can work through all the facts of both parties tonight on the floor. I have some concerns with what this gentleman has raised. However, there's a lot of ways that material can lose its copyright status and lawfully be used by another party. Because we don't know the interactions between the two parties, I can't express an opinion on that. I would suggest perhaps from the city standpoint, we're on notice that perhaps we're using copyrighted material. I would think that perhaps we have an obligation at least to look into it from that aspect. But I do believe that it appears, from what I've heard so far, the main dispute is between this gentleman and Mr. Hauk and that company, and how those video clips were obtained, whether they were legally obtained and used or whether they were not. I'm not in a position to say either way. We can't make a judgment call here tonight. Obviously, he came raising the issue, and I'm not quite sure how to proceed. I'd have to think about it a little bit, but I ask you to direct it to staff so we can kind of work through this. Maybe we can talk with him, get a few more facts. If it is a potential litigation item, we can go into executive session and discuss it that way at a later time.
And give us an opinion as to whether we can continue to use the video if this is in dispute.
Or whether we have liability or not, yes.
Any other questions for this gentleman, Sean?
This is more of a comment. I think that we are the clients of ADBAY on this. I think it is our brand. We should at least look into these allegations and see if this gentleman does actually have a case. Yeah.
So we'll leave this in the
Your Honor,
city attorney then?
I'd just like to add, I agree with that, and I thank you, Mr. Lubin, for not just saying absolutely there's nothing here that we should look at. I think that we should at least be responsible enough to take a look. It doesn't mean we have to agree with either side or whatever, but I think that would be the responsible course of action.
And if I may, I'd suggest perhaps Mr. Patterson and I meet with this gentleman, and if he's willing to share his facts, and we'll meet with Mr. Hauk and find out what their side is, if they're willing to share that information. And they may determine it's proprietary on either side. If it does, I'll report that back to council.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you for coming forward, and we'll
Thank you.
take a look at it.
Copyright, and I will tell you that if your name is on the piece and there's an infringement, you are liable. You do have a responsibility there. Doesn't matter what who did it or anything like that. That's the job of the individual that you hire to make copyright. And I will tell you that if your name is on the piece and there's an infringement, you are liable. You do have a responsibility there. Doesn't matter what who did it or anything like that. That's the job of the individual that you hire to make sure, which, getting back to Mrs. Fox's pond, we were told that there were no permits that were pulled for this pond, and